Where will Paraguay be 5 years from now? I want to dive into exactly that in this video. Welcome back to another unscripted ramble along and listen along video from Gen Z Expat. I think about this topic all the time. I think about it extremely often. I get asked about this topic a lot. And it's something that I have some very clear perspectives on, or I guess you could say some very clear kind of predictions, right? Some forecasting that I've done. But in this video, I'm not going to bring you any sort of script or structure. I'm just going to take what's on my head, take the way I would answer this question and dump it into the camera just as I would if I'm at a networking event and somebody says, hey man, where do you think this country is going? Now keep in mind, I want to talk about some of the positives and the negatives. I want to address both sides here. Paraguay is not heaven. It's not, a fantasy land, though I think it is a very good place. You could say I'm biased. I probably am, at least a little bit. I live here. I have my roots established here. Hell, I have a whole YouTube channel of a bunch of videos about this place. So you bet I'm going to have a positive outlook on this place. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. But I do want to address both sides. And I'm going to give you my own perspective and kind of synthesize some of the ideas that I've heard from a lot of people who are living here, who are doing business here, who are investing here, who are from here, who work in all sorts of different industries, all sorts of different positions, and synthesize some of the ideas of more negative opinions that I've heard of people who are a little bit more skeptical on this place, who are a little bit more hesitant to trust the growth of Paraguay. So let's dive right in. First of all, this economy will grow. Full stop, point blank. It will grow. Exactly how much it will go by, we're yet to see that. I'm not going to put a number on that. But why will it 100% grow, and why am I so confident in saying that it will be up and it will not be down? There are so many elements to what Paraguay offers economically, I guess better said, the economic situation of Paraguay that you just can't take away in 5 years. Could you take them away in 50 years? Maybe. 5 years, probably even 10, 15, 20 for most of these points? No way. What do you have here? You have a young population that is becoming more and more educated. Now, young, when you compare it to the rest of Latin America, is one of the most useful populations on the continent. Birth rate, right? Reproductive rate is much higher than most other, developed countries and a lot of other developing countries. It's not quite, Africa level, but it's certainly higher than most of its neighbors, and it's certainly higher than Western Europe, USA, East Asia, etc. So it's okay. You've got a workforce that is becoming more and more educated, that is going to grow into positions of economic output. And that's just, you can't take that away. You have abundant access to energy, right? You have the Itaipu Dam in the eastern side of the country on the border of Brazil. In case you don't know this, you probably already do, but it is one of the most productive hydroelectric dams in the world. And Paraguay is a net energy exporter, right? They have so much energy that they export a lot of it to Brazil. Abundant access to energy is there, and it's cheap, right? Paraguay has some of the lowest prices per kilowatt hour of power on anywhere in the world, and anywhere in Latin America, and it probably would be even cheaper if they weren't exporting so much of it to Brazil. So boom, young population, abundant access to energy, land, fertile land, right? As the population of Earth grows, right, and as dietary needs become more and more big, especially if we do see some sort of crazy drought or crazy war or crazy El Nino or something in another part of the world, right? Places like this are going to become so much more valuable. A lot of soy production, a lot of red meat production, a lot of other agricultural production and farm industry beyond that. But I'll just use the red meat as an example, right? Abundant access to red meat. There's just plenty of land where the cows can graze. It's not being desertified, at least nearly as much as a lot of other places. Excuse me. I'm sure there is a little bit of desertification that's happening here. I think that's kind of inevitable anywhere in the world. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure, but there's a long runway of green grass for the cows to eat here. And it's similar to a lot of the land that you see in the U.S. A big reason why the U.S. is the world superpower is because of the geography that it's sitting on. It's one of the most geographically blessed countries in the world. And a big reason for that is green grass, right? Farmland. Being able to sustain the population internally without relying on exports. And just like energy, Paraguay is a net exporter of meat. Right, they're exporting meat all over the world, and that's only going to grow. That's only going to grow. Prices of red meat in the U.S. nowadays, are you kidding? You go to the grocery store and your jaw drops. What does that mean? Countries like this, more and more money is going to be coming in to have the meat from here exported to countries like that, where there's a scarcity and prices are super, super high. What else? A growing middle class. Paraguay, just like a lot of other Latin American countries, has quite a large class divide, right? I'm not going to get too deep into this, but there is a upper class and a lower class, and the division between the two is quite stark. However, now we're seeing more and more of that middle class is becoming is growing in number, right? This is similar to like what we saw in the United States after World War II. Again, I'm making a lot of parallels to the U.S. One, because I'm from there. Two, because it's the world superpower. The middle class grew so much because there was access to industry, access to jobs. Buying a house was cheap back then, right? Incomes went up, and before you knew it, a lot of people just were living a middle class lifestyle where they weren't rich, right? They weren't insanely wealthy, but they were well above the poverty line, and they were sustaining themselves, and they had food in their belly, right? So the middle class here is growing, and that sector of the population is going to allow for so many more business opportunities, because that's where most of the money is going to come from. There's only so many rich people. There's very few numerically, and the lower class only has so many resources. What do you need? A solid middle class to fund everything. Next. The international outlook. So I'm going to go into, this might be, this goes hand in hand with economy, but it's also kind of separate from economy. Now, keep in mind, everything that I said before, I'm sorry, I'm out of order here. I'm going to say this next part here fast, and then I'm going to get into the world stage and how people look at Paraguay from abroad. Real quick point, natural disasters, you don't got them. You really don't got them here. Paraguay, this goes back to the geography thing, this is why I wanted to talk about it now. Hurricanes, nope. Earthquakes, nope. Droughts, very rare. There's droughts, but like they're, other countries would laugh at them. Like they'd be like, oh, cry me a river. Get it, pun intended, at the droughts that Paraguay has. Like, yes, they go through some dry seasons, but in the grand scheme of things, like it's not a big deal. There's rain, there's water, there's rivers. Import and export is going to become much more prevalent and much more economical here. Paraguay is located in the middle of South America, and Asunción is known as the mother of all cities. Why? Because the Spanish, when they came here and they were, what's the term? I don't want to say they were conquering, but there's a specific term for setting up new cities. I forgot. But when they were setting up these new cities, they came up the Rio de la Plata, which opens up in Argentina. They took Rio Paraguay, which took them to Asunción, and they used Asunción as like a base to then go up all the navigable rivers that stem from here to set up these new cities, right? Why do I say that? Paraguay is landlocked, yes. But from an import-export perspective, it kind of isn't, because it's just a short river barge trip away from the port of Buenos Aires. Meaning that's not cheap. I'm sorry, that's not expensive. That is a very economical, extra shipping cost of going from the port of Buenos Aires to Asunción. If you guys get here and you look at the rivers, you'll see these massive river barges. They're like these massive flat platforms with a bunch of containers on them. They're honestly kind of impressive to look at. So importing and exporting is very, very feasible here. And then the bioceanic corridor is going to be completed here soon. It's basically a massive highway system that connects the ports in Chile to the ports in Brazil, right? The Pacific to the Atlantic. And that's going to run right through Paraguay, right through the north of Paraguay. So along that route, there's going to be a bunch of money to be made, right? Factories to be built there, tax money to be collected. I hope they spend it well. There's going to be, you're selling food, right? Gas stations, right? All sorts of housing for these workers, right? There's all sorts of activity along this corridor. And it's going to make the cost of shipping things across both of those oceans a lot lower. And that's running right through here. Next, goes kind of hand in hand with the cheap energy thing, AI and data centers. There is abundant access to cheap energy, like I had already mentioned, and now you include the bioceanic corridor, right? Access to actually import this equipment. And what you get, and you're already starting to get it, are a lot of these companies, these firms looking at Paraguay as a place to put their next data centers, right? You see it in states like Texas in the US where there's these massive multi-million-dollar data centers going up. Paraguay will be the South American version of that. Now, obviously, it's not as far along as a Texas, but whoever owns that land is going to make a killing. Whoever helps fund those projects, whoever sells these companies the material, right? Sells them the computer equipment, whoever brings the workers to work on these data centers, whoever owns the data centers, whoever buys stock in these companies, right? Like there's all these ways that the money is going to be made from AI, data centers, and the need for data, right? The data-driven economy that is only going to get bigger going forward. Now, bringing it back, sorry for teasing you earlier. From abroad, okay, a lot of people associate the growth of Paraguay with, they associate it with, oh, foreigners are showing up. Yes, great. I am here in front of Paseo La Galeria. If I were to walk in there right now, I'm going to see a bunch of us, right? I am contributing to that. I make Paraguay content, and a lot of people have come to Paraguay with my help. Awesome. However, that's not it. It goes way, 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 way beyond that. And I think some people, they fail to understand the scale of the difference between the growth from foreigners and the massive growth from the internal economy itself, right? It's not you'll use the word bubble, right? And a lot of times the bubble word is used in the real estate sector. I'll get into that in a second. But just like the foreigner bubble, right? The gringo bubble, right? Where all the foreigners are at. And they think, okay, there's a bunch of money coming in from foreigners and the residency is easy and the taxes are low. But if I invest in Paraguay and then they change the residency laws, we got an ambulance going by. I think it's fitting that you hear the street noise here. This is the growth happening in real time. If they change the residency laws, my investment's going to tank because why would there be any value in it anymore? No. There's, like I said, all these things that I just talked about are intrinsic to the economy itself. Changing the residency laws does not remove them. Increasing the taxes on foreign sourced income does not remove them, right? Like foreigners relocating to Paraguay and vacationing in Paraguay and getting their residency is a drop in the bucket when it comes to the overall economic picture here. So keep that in mind. Might they change the residency 5 years from now and make it really difficult? Yeah, if anything, they probably will. Is that going to take Paraguay's growth and just make it go like this? No, it's not. It's just a natural progression of the growth of this economy, right? Right now, the government wants to promote foreign investment, and as a way to incentivize that, amongst a lot of other ways, they're saying, hey, get your residency relatively easily, but eventually people will be aware enough about the Paraguayan economy, right? All the things that I mentioned, about the growth, about the upwards, the upwards trend, about the potential to where they won't need the easy residency as an excuse to invest here anymore. And keep in mind, a lot of the investment that we're seeing here, the foreign investment now, realistically, is guys like you and me. You might be watching this video, you might be a digital nomad, you might be a potential retiree, or just somebody who has some money that they earned abroad and they want to come down to Paraguay and live a lifestyle, and in doing so spend that money. Great. Who's really going to move the needle in terms of foreign investment? It's that company bringing in the data center. It's private equity. It's hedge funds, it's firms that manage millions and millions and even billions of dollars in assets. Those are that's really going to move the needle here. Those are the people who are going to come down here and think, okay, how can I buy 1,000 hectares, 10,000 hectares, that might be insane, along the bioceanic corridor? How can I come and buy 50 units in an apartment building? You might want one, right? Link in description if you want help buying one. I can help you buy one or more. I mean, if you want to buy more, great. But like, it's real big time investors who right now aren't yet confident enough in Paraguay, who are going to come in and drop a big check and move real money and really create a difference in this economy. We're not really seeing that at a large scale yet. We're starting to see it in other Latin American countries. Look at Panama, look at Uruguay. Those are my two favorite examples when it comes to kind of a somewhat mirror image of what Paraguay could be in the future. Panama, stable economy, very aligned with the US, banking hub, built 1 trillion apartment buildings. Again, I'll get into more into real estate in a second. Had an easier residency before, now they've since made it a bit more difficult. And before you know it, it's exploded, right? The cost of living there has gone up substantially from what it used to be. Incomes have gone up there substantially. There is big money in Panama. There are some real players in Panama doing real business. Uruguay, same thing. Another banking capital, banking hub of Latin America, especially amongst its Latin American neighbors like Argentina and Brazil. Stable economy, stable currency, well located. They also have the benefit, unlike Panama, but like Paraguay, of green grass, baby. Bunch of green grass, bunch of access to agriculture. I'm not super familiar with their residency situation, but if I'm not mistaken, it did used to be easier and now it is harder. But both of these countries are doing well. And in both of these cases, people who invested 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago are like, dang, I'm glad I did that, right? So again, there's a lot of parallels, right? Is there political violence and coup d'etats and uprisings and changing of government in Panama and Uruguay? No, there hasn't been for a very long time. Is there in Paraguay? Nope. Is there in Bolivia? Yeah. Is there in Argentina? Yeah. At least in Argentina, like the hyperinflation and all that. Is there a lot more political unrest in countries like Colombia and Brazil? Yeah. Right? Paraguay has that stability. Stable currency, boom, we got it. Man, I wish the dollar came back up, but it is what it is. Easy residency for now, but this is the early stages, right? So just look at the parallels. So from abroad, people are going to see this. Big players, real business people are going to see this, and that's where this country is really going to skyrocket from a foreign investment perspective, alongside all of the internal economic growth that's already going to be inevitable anyways. Now, let me get into some cons. One, like I said, 5 years from now, residency probably won't be as easy. Now, I'm not going to use that as a way to scare you into getting residency now, but get residency now. Why not? You should. It's an objective fact that you are better off getting it now than waiting, if you can. But residency will not be as easy. Cost of living will be higher in 5 years. It's already started to go up a little bit, even in the past year and change that I've been here. Now, on one hand, that's due to actual price increase. And on the other hand, that's due to the devaluation of the dollar. So for me, I kind of feel it. But keep in mind, a less valuable dollar doesn't only impact people earning in dollars, foreigners earning in dollars. It also impacts businesses who are doing here, who are local businesses who are receiving dollars as payment but paying expenses and warranties. Those people have lost a ton of margin. But currencies can fluctuate. That can go back up. Excuse me. Cost of living will go up, yes. Now, the Asunción Gringo bubble geographically is a very, very small area. So a lot of those immediate cost of living increases we're going to feel right around here, right? I'm in front of Paseo, Shopping del Sol, Shopping Mariscal. That's it. You know what I mean? Like the true, like, okay, all the foreigners go there spot is those 3 shopping malls. Distrito Perseverancia, not yet. Centro Asunción, not yet. Las Mercedes, not yet. Right? San Lorenzo, Luque, Lambaré, Mariano Roca Alonso, definitely not yet. So the increases in prices are going to be much later on in those places. But at least for now, if you're trying to come here and live next to Del Sol, 2-3 years from now, 5 years from now, yeah, it's going to be more expensive. Now, again, that's not just a symptom of foreigners coming, bringing their high incomes. That's also a symptom of internal economic growth, just like we see, again, in countries like Panama and Uruguay. Next. I could make an entire video on this topic. I'm not going to go super deep into it, but now this doesn't necessarily have to be a negative. I don't know. The foreigner-local relationship will change. I don't think it's going to be that negative, or even negative at all, who knows? But disclaimer, you like how my face is changing colors here? I've got this like advertising sign changing the color of my face. This is kind of, some people, this is where I hear some negative chatter. Oh, dude, 5 years from now, this place is going to be Medellin. The locals, they're not going to like us anymore. They're going to be tired of us increasing their prices and coming, you know, through here and just like acting like we run the place when we really don't. Maybe, but I don't think so. So here's my take on this. Again, I could make a whole video on this, and I probably will. Places like Medellin, places like Mexico City, places like Barcelona, Spain, places like Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, are very tourism-centric. Tourism. Asunción, by default, we don't have beaches. We're not extremely close to the United States or Western Europe. It is not a cheap flight compared to those places to get down here. There's no direct flight to Miami just yet. Right? There's no like crazy, insane nature, mountains, crazy parties, right? Nightlife to come and see here. So in large part, we're not going to get that surge of like short-term tourism spend money that you see in places like Medellin, right? You take Poblado in Medellin, for example, the average income earning Colombian can no longer live in Poblado. You need to earn a well above average salary to live in that neighborhood. Why? Because so much of the internal economy of that neighborhood is funded by people coming for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, right? And by default, if you're only coming for a week, do you really care how much the dinner costs? Do you really care if the Airbnb is $600 for that week? $600, that's a rate of $2,400 per month if you were to multiply it by 4. $2,400 US for an average earning Colombian, forget it. He can't do it. Here, you are getting some of that, yes. So there will be some of that, like cost of living goes up, you know, aspect, and there will be a little bit of like that, man, these foreigners are making this place different aspect. But again, I think it's just going to be so much less than these other destinations because there's not a tourism focus, right? A lot of people who are coming here, we're staying here for a month, multiple months, or we're straight up living here. Like me, if I go to a restaurant and I can tell that they are just straight up gringo priced, right? If they're charging me $50 for a steak, I'm gonna walk up out of there and I'm earning in dollars. I'm the problem, right? But I live here. I know what things cost. I understand this economy and I'm not willing to be overcharged, right? And that goes for a lot of other foreigners who are coming down here. We're not just recklessly spending for 2 weeks and getting out of here in droves. And again, by default, due to just where Paraguay is on the continent and what it has to offer, it's not going to be that touristy. So I would not put it on the same trajectory as somewhere like Medellin, but it will get a little bit more in that direction. Next. So here's where I'm going to go into sort of a pro and a con. The real estate sector. There will be a lot of really good money to be made here in real estate, and there will be a lot of people who 3 years from now will regret their decision. Why? there are a lot of buildings being built, a lot of barrios cerrados, which are like planned communities, like neighborhoods where the developer takes a bunch of land and bulldozes it and puts plots of land, like little individual plots. A lot of those being built, townhomes, duplexes, that sort of thing. We are still kind of in the Wild West days of Paraguay real estate, where there's not that much regulation. There's not that much of like a structure of like a standard operating procedure that you as a foreigner can abide by if you don't know what you're doing. So the truth is, a lot of people will, I don't want to say get scammed. Some people will just blatantly get scammed. I know multiple people who have blatantly gotten scammed because they didn't know what they were doing. But also some people will just make purchases that aren't that great. Like for example, if you're paying Shopping del Sol area prices in Centro Asunción, and I see some of these developers gunning for that, right? And some people bite, they pull the trigger. It's like, I don't think that's gonna work well for you. Or if you buy a building from a developer that just doesn't do that great of work, right? It's like, okay, now it looks pretty. Woo, we sold them. 5 years from now, is it still gonna be well maintained? Is it still gonna be in good shape? Who knows, right? So there will be and this is, I think the best analog to this is Panama City. There will be some people who bought real estate here and were like, yes, home run. Like, property went up in value, rentability was good, yields were high. Maybe they bought it and they sold it in 5 years, sold it in 2 years, sold it in 10 years. And property values will continue to go up. And there will be some people who are like, dude, like the developer wasn't great, or I bought, a house from some random guy who didn't actually have the title, and I paid him the money, and turns out I don't have the title. What the heck? I bought a house that I can't legally own. So you're gonna hear more of that, right? In the news, in content, in conversations. You're gonna hear more sour tastes, but you're also gonna hear more home runs. So just understand that there's gonna be a mix, and it's up to you to be on the right side of that. Now, I'm not gonna plug myself extremely hard here, but asunciontimes.com/property, reach out to us in the link in the description. We can help you with that. And then some people, they point to like a bubble, like there's gonna be an oversupply and it's all gonna collapse. That, I just don't see that. Why? We haven't seen that in so many of these other cities. Now, there are examples in the world of bubbles that have popped. You see that like in some Southeast Asian countries, that's a bit more common. But for example, again, Panama City, bro, the amount of high rises that they built over the past 20, 30 years will make your jaw drop, right? You see the skyline of Panama City and it is nothing but buildings, and they're still expensive. People who bought are still happy with their decision. You still can't get a $50,000 one bed, one bath like you can here, right? So it's like, and I guarantee you, people in Panama City way back when were like, bro, this is a bubble. No shot. There's a million buildings going up. What the heck? It's all gonna collapse, and it never did. Now, it has its ups and downs. And even some of these Southeast Asian cities, Bangkok, Thailand, for example, it had kind of a downturn, but it's still working its way up. Like, it's still, buying in Bangkok 10 years ago was still not a bad idea, despite the fact that there's a bunch of buildings. And Asunción is a capital city. It's not a random beach town. It's not BC, right, in Brazil, where there's a bunch of buildings too. I don't know how those are doing, but it's a capital city. It will always be, at least within our lifetimes, I think, the economic center of Paraguay, which is growing. So it's like, sure, you might think that there's not enough expats right now in order to fill the amount of Airbnbs that we're going to see in the next year or two, with a lot of these buildings being finished, which may or may not be true. But in the long run, will the value of the property go up? Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say for certain, but I'm extremely confident that it will. And that's a big reason why I'm working in real estate now. Again, I don't want to make this a big plug for that. If you want my help, you can get it. But if not, no worries. I want to focus on the topic of this video and provide you value for this video. But it's again, there's so much inertia pushing Paraguay in the direction of economic growth, to where having a nice apartment building in the central business district of the capital city of that country by default is going to carry a lot of value going forward, even though, to the untrained eye, it seems like there's too many buildings going up. So, we're already at 30 minutes now. Should I care about how long this video goes, or should I just keep going? I'll keep going for a second. What else? You know what? No, I won't keep going. I'll stop here. So yeah, that is it. That's a wrap. Yeah, we're a half an hour in now. So thank you to all of you who made it all the way to the end, who made it all the way to this point. And what do you think? What do you think in the comments? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Was there anything I missed about where Paraguay is going to be in the next 5 years? And I'm sorry, I didn't concretely answer that question in a lot of ways. I was just kind of talking about growth in general. But yeah, 5 years from now, the economy is going to be bigger. There's going to be more foreigners. It's going to be a bit more expensive. Real estate is still going to hold strong. It's going to be way more well-known on the international stage. And then you can take all those things and you can kind of multiply them or loosely adjust them for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, et cetera, et cetera. So is there anything I missed? Like those of you guys watching who maybe are a bit more hesitant on buying into Paraguay, on moving here, on setting up a business here, on purchasing property here, on employing people here, right? On getting the residency, why? I genuinely want to hear you out. And at the end of the day, this is the X factor for Paraguay. I've said it in my content before. You might have already heard this come out of my mouth, but I am here. I arrived to Paraguay to check it out. I stay in Paraguay and I'm going so deep into Paraguay and I'm so bullish on Paraguay because I see this growth. I'm in my 20s. I'm in the part of the stage of my life where I need to hit a home run to set me up for the rest of my life. And I see a possibility where having moved to Paraguay and having set up, my business, my personal brand, my friends, whatever, could be that home run. I don't know if it's going to be real estate. I don't know. It could be a completely different business. I never know where life is going to take me. I don't know if it's going to be YouTube. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. I take things one day at a time. But I just think to myself, okay, first of all, I am blessed enough to be able to live anywhere in the world. Where can I go? Where can I set myself up for the future while also having a great time right now, which I'm having a great time right now? Watch the rest of my channel to find out about how I'm doing that, and how about you can do that too. But like, where will I be like, dang, that was a good decision to move there. Dang, I got in early. Dang, like that was, I'm so glad I saw the potential in this place, and now everybody's like, dude, I wish I came when you came. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I think the odds are pretty dang high. And I think comparing to the rest of the region, they're the highest, in my opinion. What do you think? I'll shut up now. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.